Ralph here, and welcome to True Power Trumpet Fitness on this tremendous Tuesday here in Connecticut. Raining like crazy, but life's good. Anyway, you saw the thumbnail. I'm old school. What can I say? I'm an old man and I'm old school. Proud of it. Anyway, let me honk a little bit and we will get right to it. I have played quite a bit today, so we should be ready to go. All day long. Anyway, I got a clip down below, guys. You have to hear. Okay? If you want to go and check it out before you watch the rest of this video, be my guest. It might lend a little credence to what I'm talking about. But anyway, this was sent to me by, I'll tell you what, one of the best contributors to this channel. Jump cut, technical error, is Joe Triscari, the nephew of two of the greatest trumpet players, Hollywood trumpet players that ever lived, Joe and Ray Triscari. I get them mixed up. They are, well, you're going to hear in a minute, basically one and the same. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think Ray, and I may be wrong, it may be Joe, Ray and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. Ray was more of a screamer, more of a commercial guy. Joe was more of a classical guy. I'm sure Joe was principal trumpet with the MGM Grand Symphony all those years. But the whole point, each one was interchangeable. The screamer could play in the orchestra guy could scream. That's just the way it was. Okay? And I'm school. Now you listen to this arrangement of West Side Story, which is a beast. If you've ever played that, the overture is an absolute beast. The whole thing, it's tough. But listen to the sound Joe Triscari is getting. Guys, it is gorgeous. It is full. It is rich. At the same time, sizzling. I mean, and just in tune, locked in, popping. Guys, my point is, they don't play like that anymore. Okay? Now, before you guys start killing me, I want you to listen very, very carefully. The style of playing has morphed. It has changed since the great era the golden age of brass that I'm talking about. Okay? And I'm not saying what we have today is wrong. I'm not. And I will get to more nuts and bolts of that in a second. I'm not saying it's wrong at all. For the sake of argument, Wayne Bargeron and Louis Dowdeswell, phenomenal players. I have done videos on both of them many times, and they are phenomenal players. They don't sound like Joe Triscari. To my ear, they are thin, and they are not necessarily interchangeable to both genres. Okay? I prefer, as the thumbnail said, I prefer old school. That's what was in my head. That's what I grew up listening to Mel Broyles. Now here's the deal. Here's the deal. And listen carefully. If you want to go back and listen to that clip I did of Maurice Andre playing Gershwin, it's perfect. Listen, Triscari brothers could play with the same equipment, could play in any big band lead or Symphony of the World. Conrad Gazzo, the king of lead trumpet players, G's and A's like you wouldn't believe, was actually the best concert band player in the country at the time. He wanted to make some money, so he went out in Los Angeles and did what he had to do. He was a concert band player. Mel Broyles, Herseth, they sounded like Harry James. They sounded like Harry James. Now, my point is, the top guys today do not sound like that. And there's reason. The advent of technology, you have a genius on the keyboard, in the back of the studio, and a microphone that far from your bell, or sometimes attached to your bell. It's a different thing. I get it. But I prefer the richness of the old school. This is perfect, what I'm talking about. Now, again, I did two things on Maurice, on the Gershwin, and you heard the pop, you heard the sizzle, you heard he was listening to Harry James. That's what they wanted to sound like. And guys, that to my ear, I prefer. Okay? And I'm not saying one or the other. Now, it's not necessarily just the lead guys either. You look at the orchestra, Mel and Herseth, I'll go to my grave talking about those two. Vacchiano, John Ware, Catarabic. Catarabic in high school had his own Harry James band. He was fronting a band that would play all Harry James. They loved it. Guys, they sound different than Chris Martin, Bilger, the guy from Boston, what's his name? Whatever. They sound different from today. They just do. There's a guy out of San Francisco, Inouye. Guys, they don't sound like Herseth. Now, listen carefully. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not. All I'm saying is I prefer the old school. I just do. Now, I will say this. The top guys today, back then, G was the note. If you had a G and an A to be safe, you were a top lead player. Find me a rendition of Gazzo, the king, playing a double C. They may be out there, and I'm sure he could play them, but that wasn't the point. G, F, G, those were the lead players. And you had specialty guys, Bob McCoy, Brisboy, and all that came back and did anything above that. I was at a clinic once with Bob McCoy back in the day, and he said it was a problem with him that he was never called for anything other than scream. And he felt he was a top lead player, a jazz player of note and whatnot. And all he got was for scream, but that he made a handsome living. Anyway, now I will say this. As a general rule, there are more double C's today than back then. Absolutely 1,000%. You go on the internet and every Yahoo, high school kid, college kid, whatever, is playing double C's. They sound like, most of them sound like crap. And I'm not talking about everybody. I don't listen to that much. I have not heard everybody, so I'm not pointing to one person and say, you see, that's what I'm talking. That's not what I'm talking about. Generally speaking, they can all get themselves up to a double C. Doesn't necessarily sound good. Okay? Now, there are guys that are throwbacks. Herb Smith in Rochester is a throwback. He sounds great. Perico, DeLibra, Tom Perella. Tom Perella's 85 years old. He's got a foot in one genre and is one in the other. Guys, they sound full and rich. They're throwbacks. They're throwbacks. That is what I prefer. When I heard Perico live, that's all I wanted to hear. I was in heaven. I was in heaven. everything from Beethoven to Nessun Dorma to Bruno Mars. I mean, and everything in between. Rich, full, sizzle. DeLiebra playing lead on the same thing. I heard Tom DeLiebra and Tom Perello play the Rat Pack. My God, G's and A's. But they sounded like Triscari does down there. Guys, that is what I'm talking about. And I'm not here to tell you one is better than the other. If you prefer the modern day guys, but there is a difference. There is absolutely a difference. I prefer old school. Duh, look at me and the color of my hair. I prefer old school. All right? All right. Eat and drink your fruits and vegetables, guys, and live your life with true power. Love you all. And check that out.